My name is Abby. I have two girls. Dinah is 6 and Nell is 2. They did not come today because that would have been disaster. My 2-year-old's all over the place and my 6-year-old understands everything. So she would have pretended not to listen but would have listened to every word that I was saying, and she will internalize it deeply. So they did not come. They were both born at a birthing center in the city with midwives in the same room, which sounds amazing, but there are 3 rooms, so I mean, it was a 1 in 3 chance. But it was pretty incredible to walk into the same room. I was having a contraction, and they showed me the room, and it was just like, it was amazing. They were similar births in some ways. They were both back labor, which is its own beast. But they were very different as well. And they had different challenges. So that when you go into the second birth, sometimes you think you have done it and you know everything, and it was a totally different experience. Like everything, it just feels like the first time. They were both late. So with the first, I drank castor oil. And with the second, they did the membrane sweep, which actually worked really well. So in that way, they were similar. But with the first, they took me to the birthing center, and I was far enough along that I did the check-in and everything actually in the room. But with the second, the room wasn't ready, which often happens with the birthing center. And so I had to go to triage, which was very different. It was, I shouldn't do that, I guess. It was it was scary. It was scary. It was a clinical, totally different experience than I was looking for. And yeah, it was difficult, but I used the same midwives with both of my births, and I trusted them, and I think that makes such a difference when you go into your birthing experience trusting your caregivers. Because I knew that if they told me something that I needed, that I would do it. That step was gone. I mean, you can go into these experiences wanting so much to bring your needs and your desires and what you think is a perfect birth. But for me, going into it knowing that no matter what I wanted, if this woman, because they were all female midwives, if this woman said to me, "You need this," I knew I would do it. I trusted her. I trusted all of them. And so that took that level out. And so I was able to give that over to them and take what I needed to, which is plenty, giving birth. That's all you need to deal with. So with both of my births, I was dehydrated when I got to the hospital, and they requested that I take fluids, which I guess is considered an intervention by some people. But for me, it was the best thing I could have done, especially with the second. When I was in triage, her heart rate was a little wonky, and they gave me fluids, and it took off. My birth just took off, which can happen with the second anyway after that. What I was thinking as I prepared for this, about things that people told me about birth that had an impact on my birth. And I think the most important thing anyone told me was my midwife, who was she sort of tells it like it is, and I was telling her how I thought my birth was going to go, which is ridiculous, and what music I thought I'd play and how I thought I would be. And my midwife just shook her head, and she looked at me and she said, "You don't know what part of yourself you're going to bring to birth. You don't know who you're going to be at birth." And that was the case with me for both of my births. You would think you'd learn the second time, but I did not. I had all this music set aside, and it was this very powerful for me, I just thought I would be forceful. I thought I would be, I don't know, this version of myself that I thought was the strongest. But that was not what I brought to birth. My birthing self is very vulnerable and very scared and fearful. And I want to take care of other people. I mean, I'll be in a contraction and I'll be worried about other people in the room. That is who showed up at birth. But I still birthed both my girls. And I've been thinking a lot about that idea of what is courage and what is strength. And I wonder if courage comes in those moments or if courage is those moments. If my courageous self is that fearful, anxious, taking care of other people's self, that maybe that is courage. And maybe what shows up is that version of yourself that can get you through. So I tend to think now, when that self shows up in parenting, because it does, that maybe that's the courageous me. My parenting experience also had difficulties. I mean, everyone does. It's just different kinds. I had breastfeeding was an issue for me. My girls were jaundice and latch issues and tongue and lip ties, but we did it. Nursing worked for us, and for that particular experience, I think what was so helpful for me was having a lactation consultant that I knew and I trusted. Again, caregivers around me that I trusted. That element of parenting was taken care of, especially with my second. I knew who my lactation consultant would be. I knew where the support groups were, so that the searching, when you're already going through so many things, the searching for the care is done. And so you already feel supported. And that was essential. It saved my breastfeeding relationship. My parenting group saved me emotionally. It's worth the time that you take beforehand to find support and to have it in place so that you can make the phone call and you don't have to worry about who you're calling. It's worth it.
Do you want to say maybe a couple of highlights from the birth itself, the process of being in the room and the fruition of that, things that stood out for you?
For me, being in the birthing center was the best fit for me. I was comfortable there, and I had really a supportive nurse and really supportive midwife and a really super supportive husband who gave me counter pressure at every contraction, which with back labor is essential. I felt completely supported, and with the first, I sort of didn't know how I wanted to give birth, and with the second, I knew, and I was able to push her out the way I wanted to, and that was a real gift. And I mean, with any birth, when you see them and you hold them, and it's just, I mean, it's incredible. I don't think you need a special room for that or a special experience for that. It's all the same. It's this being that's been living inside you and is there and wants you, and it's lovely.